Hello and welcome. So after a month and 42 games of cricket, we are finally at the knockout stages of the ICC Cricket World Cup 2015. Now whether you're a fan of the tournament's format or not, there's certainly been a lot of exciting games, some champion teams that have dominated, some strong teams that have had their ups and downs, and then there's been Pakistan, which has given a lot of angst to its fans, but a lot of joy as well. And now, here we are, with 7 games remaining, the quarterfinals at our door, and a time to take a stock of who's in a good position and who's not. We're going to begin with looking at the first quarterfinal that's going to be played at the SCG between South Africa and Sri Lanka. Two teams that have had contrasting journeys in ICC World Cup tournaments before. Sri Lanka has probably been the most consistent team over the last 10 years. They've made finals, they were always the bridesmaid, but in the last T20 World Cup, they actually managed to beat India and win the title. South Africa, on the other hand, have never won a single knockout game in the ODI World Cup format. So, who are your odds going to be on? Sri Lanka have had an interesting journey in the World Cup so far. They were slightly indifferent coming into the tournament. They lost a one-day series in New Zealand. Their batsmen struggled with the seaming ball, and their bowling seemed to lack a bit of zing. In the World Cup, however, they've been powered by the magnificent form of Kumar Sangakkara. It's just a delight to watch a man who's in the autumn of his career play beautifully, and he scored 2 vital hundreds and carried them here. What that has done, though, it's hidden some of the dips in the form of some of their other batsmen. Dilshan has been hot and cold, Thirumanne scored in one game and not in some of the others, and Jayawardene has just been struggling to find his feet. Angelo Matthews is a bit of a wild card in their team, but he hasn't really brought his A game in terms of batting. The bowling's been there, but not there yet enough. Malinga is there. Rangana Herath is a doubtful starter for the quarterfinal, which would be a big blow to Sri Lanka if he doesn't play, given that the game is at SCG, which is the slowest of the Australian pitches, and this time late in the season, it might just offer the spinners some help. They still have a lot of quality in that lineup, though. The critical piece would be, though, how well do their batsmen turn up on the given day. And what about South Africa? They have been having a roller coaster journey all along, scoring 400 plus totals and then losing inexplicably to India and Pakistan when they seemed in total control of the game. It's remarkable, though, the kind of statements that their captain, A.B. de Villiers, has been making as well. One day he feels his team is not as good enough as some of the fans think, and another day he feels they're better than any other team in the tournament. It almost seems to me sometimes that South Africa let this mental state and this tagline of jokers get to them. There's going to be a lot of pressure on them, no doubt, but make no mistake, there's a lot of quality in that batting lineup. With the likes of Hashim Amla, Faf du Plessis, de Villiers himself, who can turn a game upside down completely, and then there's Colin Miller and JP Duminy in the lower middle order. The bowling has been a bit indifferent so far, but Imran Tahir has been doing well for them, and you can expect Dale Steyn to turn up a good performance on a big day. The critical piece really would be, can South Africa chase the total down in a knockout game with all the pressure and the extra pressure they put on themselves? That's probably going to be the key. I get a sense this is one of those games where both the captains would love to win the toss and bat first and put numbers on the board, especially given the state of the SCG pitch as well. So, who's your money going to be on? I'm going to put my neck out and back South Africa to win their first ever World Cup knockout game. I think Sri Lanka are pretty good, but South Africa probably just have that little extra quality in their team. And this time around, I think with AB leading them, they're probably going to cross that line and make it to the semi-finals. It'll be a good game, though, no doubt about that. The second quarterfinal pits India against Bangladesh, both teams who've probably, if you ask their fans honestly, have overachieved in this World Cup. Bangladesh are into the quarterfinals, something that not a lot of us predicted. England are out, the only test-playing nation not to be in the quarters, and the way Bangladesh have performed in their last 2 games would give them a lot of heart. A large part of their success, though, has been because they've batted well, something they don't do well traditionally when they're playing outside the subcontinent. Mahmudullah has been in fine forms, he's struck back-to-back hundreds. Mushfiqur Rahim has batted well, even though the openers Tamim Iqbal and Kayes have not done so well. What has been remarkable, though, has been the bowling of Rubul Hussain, who's bowled with a lot of spirit. You don't generally expect a Bangladeshi fast bowler to bowl at 140 plus clicks and trouble batsmen from teams like England and New Zealand with his pace and bounce, but he's done that. And that's the spirit that's carried Bangladesh so far into the quarterfinals. My sense is they've played well, but they might just fall a little short in terms of quality match winners on the big day. India have had a good tournament. Nobody expected them to be this good. A lot of their fans thought they'll make it to the quarterfinals, they'll beat the minnows, but they'll struggle against the top teams. But it's just remarkable how MS Dhoni manages to rally the team around every time a big tournament comes up. You really need to discount all of India's form leading into any tournament. ICC events are Dhoni's domain, especially in limited overs formats, and he knows how to channel his team well. The opening combination is a bit of a concern. Shikhar Dhawan's got runs but struggled in the last game against Zimbabwe. Rohit Sharma has been blowing off and cold. You backed Virat Kohli to come good on the big day, and it was great to see Dhoni and Raina get some runs and time out in the middle in the last game. But when would you ever expect to say that India's bowlers are probably outshining their batsmen? The pace attack has been on all the time, moving the ball around, hustling the batsmen with their pace. And then Ravi Ashwin has bowled beautifully all through the tournament. He's been the unsung hero of this story of India so far. He's bowled slower, he's varied his pace, he's got the off break to turn, and he's troubled quality teams like Pakistan and South Africa who can play spin well. The game's going to be on the MCG. Expect a lot of Indian fans to turn out. It's going to be a sea of blue. I think it's going to be not that easy a game against India. They'll be better off not being complacent, but I think they have enough quality to cross the line and make it to the semi-final in Sydney. Right, the third quarterfinal is really the one that I think is the most exciting of all the lineups. Australia had a bit of a start-stop tournament. They never really got the momentum. I thought the washed-out game against Bangladesh hurt them a bit, not because they lost a point, but because they just couldn't build enough momentum going forward. They had an indifferent game against New Zealand where the batsmen really didn't look very comfortable on the pitch. And what that meant is that they've kind of slowly made their way to the quarterfinals, unlike Australia and some of the other World Cup tournaments where there's just so much noise made about how good they've been. Make no mistake, this is a great team. They've got quality all the way from the top to the bottom. They've got James Faulkner, who I think is a critical part of that team because he comes to bat in an 8 and 9. And in any other team, he would be batting at 6 or 7. He's the one man who can win them games when you would feel Australia completely lost. The bowlers have been bowling very well. Mitchell Starc's been moving the ball around. He's outshone Mitchell Johnson, who would be bowling at a fairly decent pace in the quarterfinal. If you had to point out one mistake, is that they don't really have a genuine spinner. And if they're playing a team like India or Pakistan, where the openers get off to a good start and the team's batting first, you might just wonder how Australia are going to pull things back. They've got enough depth in the batting though to chase down any total and give any team a hard time. Maxwell's been batting beautifully. He's a bit of a trump card in there as well. And one thing you know with Australia, you have not won until the final run's been scored or you've taken their final wicket. They'll give it their all, and they demonstrated that in the game against New Zealand. What about Pakistan though? They were on the brink of getting out of the tournament in the game against Zimbabwe. They scored like 17 runs from the first 10 overs. The media was all over them. And here they are in the quarterfinals. And as one of the articles states today, Australia are actually thinking Pakistan on a roll, and there are things to be feared about them. Some of the good things that they've done is they gave away the obduracy in the beginning of the tournament and made some sensible team decisions. Yunus Khan is a great player, but he had to go out. Sarfaraz had to come in, and he's been a real momentum changer for them, giving them good starts at the top, bringing a sense of stability to that opening combination for Pakistan, but then also doing that at a fairly good clip. Misbah has been a good captain. He's been standing around in the storm on and all. He's braved a lot of criticism, but he's seen his team through. And the bowlers have been a revelation. Mohammad Irfan is going to miss out on the quarterfinal, which I think is a bit of a blow for them, but they've got enough talent there to cover that gap. I expect Wahab Riaz to lead the attack along with Rahat Ali. Sohail Khan's going to come in there as well. If I were Pakistan playing at Adelaide Oval against Australia, I would throw in the joker in the pack and bring in the genuine leg spin of Yasir Shah into the team. I'm surprised that they haven't played him more in this tournament, especially against teams like South Africa and some of the associate nations who don't play spin all that well. If Pakistan bat first, I think they'll have a great chance to put Australia under pressure. The key question is, can Pakistan chase? especially in a knockout game with all that pressure, can they chase a score of 250 plus? Australia will be playing in front of their home crowd, will expect a lot of Pakistani support to turn up at Adelaide to even the numbers. This is going to be a close game, hopefully, and not an anti-climax. You would want the right Pakistan to turn up on the day. If I had to make a call, and this is probably the toughest quarterfinals to call out of all of them, I think Australia have just got that much more quality that's going to give them the edge. And in playing in front of the home fans, I think they're going to make it through. But this is probably going to be the best of the 4 quarterfinals to watch out for. Well, the last quarterfinal is West Indies against New Zealand. And I think if you were looking at odds-ons, or if you had to make a prediction, New Zealand are probably overwhelming favourites to win this one. They're playing at home in familiar conditions in Wellington. West Indies have been very indifferent in this tournament so far. A lot of the experts predicted they would miss out on the quarterfinals. The batting has been up and down. Other than the game against Pakistan, I don't think they've genuinely batted well against a good attack. Gale is a bit of a trump card for them. It really depends on which side of the bed he wakes up on. If he plays well, they'll be able to post a competitive total against New Zealand, but New Zealand have got a lot of quality in that bowling attack. Trent Bolt's been bowling beautifully, and so has Daniel Vettori, who a lot of people haven't noticed in this World Cup so far, but it's always good to have a good quality, genuine spinner in your attack who can slow things down when you need it to be done. A lot of batting depth for New Zealand as well. I feel the only way for West Indies to control the New Zealand batting lineup would be to get Brendan McCullum and Kane Williamson out cheaply. That's the only way you could restrict New Zealand, whether they're chasing or whether they're batting first. This is going to be a tough game for the West Indies. I don't see them making it through the semi-finals. I think New Zealand are going to win this one and will play at home at Eden Park in Auckland in the semi-finals. Right, so those are the predictions. Just going to address one last point about this World Cup. Ireland have gone out, but they've not gone out without making any noise. There's been a lot of angst amongst the associate nations for ICC's new format for the 2019 World Cup. This was something that they wanted to try for this World Cup, but then there was a bit of a backlash, and then they had to change the format as well. Now, I readily confess I'm not a great format of this tournament. I think it's a pity that cricket has not settled on a good format for its marquee global event till now. We've been holding World Cups for 40 years. But there's certainly a case for the associate nations to play. If we want cricket to be a global sport, if we want to spread its following, if we want to give the associate nations a goal to aspire for, we have to make space for them in the 50-over World Cup game. It's fine to say that they can play the T20 World Cups and that they can play one-day internationals against the other recognized teams. But the World Cup is where you really want the competitive instincts to come out, and you want to give players in those nations some goal, something to look forward to, something to aspire towards. And I think there are some associate nations like Ireland who've proved that they can be competitive against test-playing nations. The concerning part about cricket is that we are not growing the pool, we're actually shrinking it down. West Indies have become weaker over the years. Zimbabwe are no longer probably worthy of a test nation. Bangladesh tend to struggle, and so you really have 5 or 6 teams, and how much would you narrow the field down? There's definitely a case to be made for improving the format. Maybe we can go back to Super Sixes as we were in 2003 and 1999. But I think Ireland have got a point when they say that it doesn't really make sense to keep the associates out. Right, thank you very much for listening and watching this video. If you've liked it, please do hit the like button on YouTube. Enjoy the quarterfinal games. Hopefully they'll all be very good quality close games, and I'll be back with you before the semi-finals for another set of predictions. So, thank you and goodbye.